Hey guys, I said I was going to make a video for you about Bitcoins, and I'm really regretting it today. This is like my third hour going into this. I've literally created 3 hours worth of footage, and I'm not going to use any of it. Every time I go on a tangent about currencies, okay? So it's a super interesting discussion, and I wish I kind of had like an hour to talk about it. And anybody who wants that discussion, I can send you several hours worth of videos. But really, I think what you want to know is the very basics. So let's just get into it. But I'm going to start kind of from the outside in because I think it's the easiest way to understand what we're talking about. So I want to talk about the Bitcoin wallet first. Okay, so in the banking system, if you have we all hopefully have a bank account, and in that bank account, let's just talk about checking accounts. Okay, so you have a checking account, and that checking account is represented with is identified by a routing number, which is I believe a 9-digit number, and then your bank account number, which could be, I don't know, a 10, 15-digit number. So you put those things together, and that becomes a unique address in the world that you can send money to. So if you were to give me your routing number and your bank account number and a couple other information like the address of the bank and the SWIFT code and stuff like that, I don't think those things are really necessary. I think it's just the routing number and the bank account. I can send you money, right? So you can say, send me 20 bucks. I can wire you money. So let's just talk about wires because it's the most applicable thing, okay? So if I wanted to wire you $20, I'd just go to my bank's website. I would type in $20 and with your bank account information, and it would go to you, and there would be a transaction fee of like, let's say $3. Okay, that's a lot like how the Bitcoin wallet works. So a Bitcoin wallet is basically just another string of numbers and letters. And it is very much akin to what you understand to be your bank account number. Okay, so your routing number followed by an account number. So I'm going to show you a number like that in a second. But keep in mind that I've printed this number on a piece of paper that looks really fancy, but it could just be on any piece of paper. Or it could be in a computer file, or it could be on a thumb drive, or it could be just something you memorized, okay? Good luck to you if you want to memorize something this big. So nothing special about this piece of paper, really, other than the number that's written on it, okay? So here's my Bitcoin wallet. I just want to point out to you that this is the number down here that I'm talking about. That is the address of my Bitcoin wallet, okay? This wallet address is empty. That QR code is just that same number that's represented with QR code. So if you were to scan that, you'd get that number. Behind this flap right here, which is double folded, is another number similar to this that is the key for my account. Okay, so I'm not going to give you that. You get this if you want to send me money. I need that if I want to send money out of this account. Okay, so that's like think of that as your PIN number for your ATM, almost, okay? So I'm just trying to help you understand this in a very simple term. Don't get very technical with me if you already understand Bitcoins well. So how do I get a Bitcoin into this wallet, right? Into this number, into this account? Well, what I can do is I can ask someone who has a Bitcoin to send it to me, okay? So what I would do is I would give them this address, and I'd say, hey, send me some Bitcoins, and if maybe I'm selling them something, like I sold them an iPhone or something like that, and they say how many Bitcoins. I say 1 Bitcoin for this iPhone, and I give them the iPhone, and they send me a Bitcoin to that address. Then I've got the Bitcoin. Okay, so that's as simple as that. The second way, so that's a trade for goods or services, a lot like money. The second way is to go out and purchase it using US dollars. So using another currency to purchase this currency, right? So you can do that on any number of Bitcoin exchanges. There's a US-based company called Coinbase. That's technically not a US. That's not a Coinbase. That's not a Bitcoin exchange. It is just a place to go buy it, basically. There is one called Bitstamp. That's an exchange. There's Mt. Gox. You'll hear all these names out there. But if you just Google Bitcoin exchange, you'll probably get like 100 of them. There's some reputable ones, some not. So basically how those work, you give them some US dollars from your bank account, and then they, based on however much a Bitcoin's going for at the time. So today's price is about 600 bucks. So you put $600 and they will buy a Bitcoin from you, and they will either send it to your wallet or they'll keep it for you until you want to do something with it. Okay? So that's how you purchase a Bitcoin. And the way you store it is you can store it either at, let's say, if you bought it on Coinbase, you can keep it at Coinbase, so they kind of have their own wallet for you. Or you can have them transfer it to a paper wallet for you, like this, and you can take this and you can put it in a safe, right? And you don't have to ever mess with it. And this number, like I said, that's a public number you can give away. The number behind this, which is similar to that in size, is the key that you can use to send money out. Okay, it's a very, very, very safe cryptographic currency. Okay, so your wallet is actually very safe unless somebody hacks into it. Meaning, if you had if you were storing those two numbers on a computer or in your email or in some place, if somebody hacks into that computer, you get a hold of both those numbers, or actually just the hidden one, then you could potentially lose all your Bitcoins in a fraction of a second, because they could take that wallet and they could transfer it to another wallet of their own, and you wouldn't be able to really figure out what happened. Okay, you just lose that money. But if it's printed and it's safe and if you put it away, there's no way anybody can get that number. Okay, so that's not something you can just guess or have a computer figure out for you. Okay, so how did the guy that I'm getting the Bitcoin from, how did he get it? Maybe he got it the same way. Maybe he had purchased it, or he got it in trade. But there was a third way. Okay, so he could have mined it. Okay, so you probably heard the term Bitcoin mining before. And you're probably wondering, what the hell does that mean? Okay, so in order to understand Bitcoin mining, you kind of have to understand a little bit about currency, okay? So a way your typical U.S. dollar, or your Thai baht, or your Vietnam dong, or your U.S. dollars are generated is there's a central bank somewhere that regulates monetary policy. What monetary policy means is basically figuring out how many dollars need to be out in the world, or how many of that currency need to be out in the world, how much it should cost, that sort of thing. And they weigh that against long-term interest rates, they weigh that against maximum employment numbers, that sort of thing, right? So in the US, in 1913, we came up with something called the Federal Reserve Act, which was in reaction really to a panic we had in 1907. Having to do with devaluation of U.S. currency. Okay, what the Federal Reserve does is it has three mandates. By mandates, I mean it really has three purposes in life. Okay, the first one is maximum employment. Okay, the second one is price stabilization for the currency. Okay, so basically a stabilized price for the currency, which is very important, right? Because if your currency were to go up and down like drastically every day, then it would get a little crazy, and your boss would have to pay you $12 an hour one day and $2,400 an hour the next day, or something like that. That wouldn't work. And then the third one is moderate long-term interest rates. Okay, so long-term interest rates are important because you got to do something with your money, investing in long-term, and how banks trade money. That's very important for a centralized currency. Now, what happens if you take the central bank out? Then you create what's called a decentralized currency. Okay, and that's exactly what a Bitcoin is. Now, how does that work? So who's putting money into this ecosystem? The way it works is based on a mathematical paper that was submitted by a guy or group of guys using the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto back in 2008. And so that's a whole cool, really awesome story you should go read about Satoshi Nakamoto. Okay, what the mathematical program is basically a algorithm that has a finite number of solutions. Each time you find a solution, a block of Bitcoins is awarded to you. Okay, so you could say, why don't I just go find these solutions? That sounds cool. I'll just go learn how to do that. And you could, let's say this was 2009 and you had a computer at home, you could probably install this program on it back then and have it start churning out solutions to this problem and get Bitcoins. The problem is, here's how the mathematical formula works. Think of it as a warehouse filled with haystacks, okay? And then inside those haystacks, somewhere, there's some needles, right? And you're told to go find those needles. Now, at the beginning, there's very few haystacks and lots of needles, so you can find them pretty quickly. But every time you find a needle, they add a bunch more haystacks, but no more needles, okay? So the needles stay the same, but the number of haystacks increases, okay? So you can think, and you're never given any more tools than that, right? You can just go in naked with your hands and find needles, right? I'm trying to come up with a way you can understand this. So you can think that people will say, okay, well, I'll just stay up 24 hours a day and I'll keep going through this and I'll find all the needles I can. Well, the problem is they'll just continue to add more haystacks, right? So turns out, well, people got pretty smart. They went and got really big supercomputers to begin with, right? And they found a lot of needles very fast, okay? And the problem they caused was they just kind of piled on a lot of haystacks, right? Well, so they needed faster and faster computers. And so now we're talking probably 2010, 2011. They were using super fast computers to mine for bitcoins, meaning find these needles in this big haystack. And every time they would find one, they would get a block of bitcoins, like 50 bitcoins back then, okay? And then the way it works is the algorithm is written such that after you find so many of them, instead of 50, you only get 25, then you get 12 and a half or something like that. Right now we're at 25 bitcoins per block that are awarded. Don't worry if I'm confusing you a little bit. It'll come a little bit full circle, and turns out you don't need to understand any of this. So you get... So what's happened today is if you want to mine bitcoins, you can't use a computer to do it anymore, because it's like, using a shovel to dig a hole the size of Earth. Like it just doesn't work, right? So you need a much bigger shovel, right? So you need these things called ASIC miners, and these ASIC miners are basically graphic card type computing devices, okay, that are built just to solve the Bitcoin problem. So they can't add 1 + 1 = 2. They can find Bitcoins. They're optimized for that. And even those, they can't keep up with the rate that the difficulty of the problem is going up. So to buy one today that's kind of like good, you have to spend between $10,000 to $30,000 to get one, and it uses a lot of power. So unless the price of Bitcoin goes up to $2,000 to $3,000, it's really not worth it to get one of these miners, right? And the problem is, let's say you get on this web, and they're all back ordered, right? So you get on some website, you order one. By the time it gets created and put in a box and shipped to your house, and you set it up, and that's several weeks. In that time, the difficulty level of finding a Bitcoin has already gone up drastically. So your device is already outdated. Plus, you use a lot of electricity, so you're probably not going to break even. Okay. So we talked about mining. Trust me, it isn't for you. Don't even look into it unless you want to do it for a hobby, which I totally recommend. There's little miners that you can buy off of Amazon if you just want to figure out how to do this on your own, just to kind of show your kids how cool you are. By all means, I'll even volunteer to kind of not help you. So we talked about where you can get one. You can get them on the exchange. You can also get them on trade. You can spend Bitcoins online now in a lot of websites. Just do a search for where can I spend Bitcoins. There's a lot of websites that list all the other websites that can do it. You can even technically buy Amazon products through like an Amazon Bitcoin exchange provider that's an affiliate, and they'll do it. Here's the thing you need to know about Bitcoins. Right now is this really crazy time, right? So there's different countries around the world that are examining whether or not Bitcoin is going to be a threat to their central currency, okay? Which it really is, right? Because taking the banks out of the system. Remember, if I want to wire you money, $20 will cost me $3 to wire. So to send you like $1, that's going to cost me $3 also through a wire. Well, that doesn't make any sense. So to do micro payments, which are very necessary nowadays, okay? Don't ask me why, because you should go find that out on your own. The current banking system doesn't really work for that, but Bitcoins really do, because the Bitcoin transactions are verified by the peer network. Now, so this brings us to the discussion about banks, and I really want to make this quick. So if you have questions, just ask me later. The reason you and I need a bank. Okay, so I need a bank for my mortgage, and I need a bank for my car payment and all that stuff, okay? But let's say that's like, I do all of that with Bank of America, and I open an account with Wells Fargo as well, okay? So why do I even need Wells Fargo, right? Like if I paid off my house and my car, right, and I still have a ton of money that I need to use, why do I need these guys? They're not giving me a loan, right? But they do provide a really good service, right? When I send you money, or I send my AT&T money for my phone payment or something like that, they verify that transaction. So they make sure that the money is someplace and then it's someplace else, and they verify that that transaction actually happened. Okay, so that's very important. That's the only service banks provide that we should be paying them for, right? Other than the fact that, like, they give you loans and, they facilitate that transactions. that transaction has a cost to it, okay? But in a peer-to-peer network, like Bitcoin, what happens is I say I want to send you $20 or 20, let's say Bitcoins. That would be a ridiculous amount of money in today's exchange rate. But let's say I want to send you like 1 Bitcoin, right? So I put that transaction out there, meaning I send it from like my wallet to like your wallet, right? With these addresses, and then that goes out there. But that transaction also gets posted to, think of it as like a bulletin board, okay? And then there's all these computers out there, like my computer and like a bunch of other ones, like probably millions of other ones, that go through and they verify that that transaction actually happened, okay? So they're like, okay, I verified that that transaction happened. And as long as I get several verifications that it happened, then it was real, then it actually happened. So a bank doesn't need to do it. A peer-to-peer network does it now. Okay, so that is super cool that happens. So how did Bitcoins came into play to begin with? So this mathematical formula, basically, the person who kind of wrote the paper on Bitcoins, nobody knows who he is. Pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, like I said. He actually started doing the first mining himself, and then other people kind of got involved, and lots of programmers and things like that. So the basics of it are very complicated, but the idea behind a decentralized currency is what a Bitcoin really is. So ever since Bitcoin, there's been hundreds of other cryptocurrencies. Okay, so that term stands for cryptographic currencies. Cryptographic is a term for basically the way these currencies are discovered and mined and secured cryptographically. That's what cryptocurrency means. So there's Litecoin and altcoin and I don't know, dozens of other ones. There's like Frank coin. You could make Tan coin if I wanted to tomorrow. I thought about it just to do some learning. But anyway, just like any other currency, like these US dollars or these Vietnam dongs and this bent Vietnam dong, they all have their value kind of determined to a certain extent by the trade that happens to the public, but really the central bank sets the policy of how much they're worth. But with Bitcoins, it's really just peer-to-peer network. So it's us that decides, okay? And it's secure because of its nature. It isn't secure because a bank has to make sure it's secure. And let's see, what else? I think that's it. So I've got a little cool thing for you. If you can go figure out how to create your own Bitcoin wallet, which is very easy. Here's a hint. You can just go on Coinbase. When you sign up, you can just create as many wallets as you want. So meaning create as many accounts as you want, okay? If you take that Bitcoin, your public key, which is very secure to give out, you want to give that out. You don't want to give away your private key ever, okay? Because that's like your PIN number, but you can give away your account number, remember. So if you take your public key and you go to my blog, tanrants.blogspot.com, and you put that into the comments for this post, you put that string into the comments for this post, I will send, if you're part of the first 100 people to do it, I will send you a fraction of a Bitcoin. Promise. So that will happen. It won't be a very large fraction, but today the price of Bitcoins is $600. Last week it was $1,200. It's very important to understand the volatility in this currency is really because of the time that we're in right now. It's very possible that it will go to zero. It's very possible that it will go to $40,000. Okay, so that's kind of the speculative nature of the currency. A lot of people kind of think of it as the gold rush type of mentality. So anyway, yeah, if you go to the blog and you post your Bitcoin public address, letting me know that you took interest and you kind of did some effort to get your own public key, I will deposit a small fraction of a Bitcoin into your wallet as a token of recognition for your effort in figuring out how to catch up with this really cool currency. If you have any other questions, let me know. I've got several hours of footage I can send you on how currencies work and how bogus they kind of are altogether. But thanks for watching.